Hey everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something pretty big, the experiences of autistic women. You might be listening to get ready for a meeting or to understand someone you care about better, or just because you're curious.
It's a topic that deserves so much more attention.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And we're going to go way beyond those surface level stereotypes like, quirky and sensitive. We're going deep to understand what it really means to be an autistic woman.
I like that, getting to the heart of it.
And our source today is a blog post called Five Things I Wish People Understood About Autistic Women.
Oh, I've seen that one.
Yeah, it's from a website called Cheap ABA, and let me tell you, this post hits hard.
It does.
Like, you can feel the author's frustration with being so misunderstood.
You really can.
It's like a plea to be heard and seen.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so important.
For sure. So let's jump right in. The author starts by talking about how frustrating it is to be dismissed as just quirky or sensitive. It's like people want to minimize the neurological differences.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to make it seem less significant than it actually is.
Right.
And that's dangerous because it's not about being a little different. It's about having a completely different way of experiencing and processing the world,
So true. Think about it like synesthesia.
where people paste colors or hear shapes. That's a great analogy.
It shows how brains can be wired differently.
And autism is similar. It's not just a personality quirk. It's a fundamental difference in how the brain works.
What's like a different operating system?
I like that. A different operating system, yeah.
Okay, so this next part blew my mind. The author talks about being told she didn't look autistic.
Oh, I hear that all the time.
I mean, what does that even mean?
Right. It highlights this huge problem we have. These societal expectations and stereotypes about what autism is supposed to look like.
And those are usually based on a very limited view.
Often a very male-centric view, yeah.
Exactly. So we're talking about the autism spectrum.
And how it manifests so differently in each person.
Especially in women.
Exactly. And that's why diagnosis can be so tricky.
So someone could easily be overlooked or misdiagnosed.
Absolutely. I've worked with so many women whose autism went unrecognized for years because they didn't fit the stereotype.
Wow, that's heartbreaking. The author writes, "We're not broken or damaged."
Yeah, that line really gets to me.
There's so much raw emotion there.
It is. It speaks to this feeling a lot of autistic people have of being seen as needing to be fixed rather than just accepted.
Instead of celebrated.
Right. And this is where the concept of neurodiversity comes in. It's about celebrating those unique ways our brains work instead of seeing them as deficits.
It's like recognizing that different doesn't mean deficient.
Exactly.
I love that. But this blog post isn't just about raising awareness. It's also like a call to action.
Definitely.
The author is adamant that autistic women are worthy of love, respect, and inclusion.
And that's where we have to go beyond just understanding and move toward action.
Okay, so we've talked about the misconceptions, the challenges, the very real struggles that autistic women face.
And we've touched on the need for change.
But where do we go from here? What about the strengths and potential that might be overlooked?
That's such a great question, and it leads us into a crucial part of this conversation. We need to recognize the incredible strengths that autistic women bring to the table.
I'm ready. Tell me more about those strengths.
Well, for one, many autistic women have this incredible eye for detail.
They see things others don't.
Exactly. Their focus and analytical skills make them amazing problem solvers. Think about fields like science, technology, and research. Those are areas where these skills really shine.
It's like their brains are wired to see patterns and connections that others miss.
Yes. They see the world from a different angle, and this different perspective often translates into incredible creativity and innovation.
That makes sense. They aren't bound by the same limitations as others. It's like they have a superpower.
It is a superpower. It's a different way of seeing and interacting with the world, and that can be incredibly valuable in any field.
One thing that really struck me about the blog post was the author's honesty and directness.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
Autistic individuals often have a strong sense of justice and fairness.
Really?
Yes, they value honesty and transparency, and they're not afraid to speak their truth, even when it's uncomfortable.
I can see how that could be valuable in a world where we're often encouraged to conform and, suppress our true selves.
It's refreshing and inspiring to see that authenticity. It challenges us to be more genuine and accepting of ourselves and others.
Let's pause here for a second and connect this back to our listeners. What does all this mean for someone who wants to be more understanding and supportive of autistic women?
Well, first and foremost, remember that there is no single autistic experience. Every individual is unique, and their journey is shaped by their gender, their culture, their personal experiences.
So ditch the stereotypes and checklists.
Exactly. Approach each person with an open mind and a willingness to listen and learn. Don't make assumptions about their abilities or their challenges.
What about supporting their needs in a practical way? What can people do?
It starts with creating a welcoming and inclusive environment. For example, be mindful of sensory sensitivities. Loud noises, bright lights, or strong smells can be overwhelming for some autistic individuals.
That's something I never really considered before, how even something as simple as the lighting in a room could impact someone's ability to focus and feel comfortable.
It can make a world of difference. And it's not just about the physical environment, it's about communication too. Be patient and understanding. Autistic individuals might process information differently or take longer to respond.
It's about respecting their pace and their way of communicating.
Precisely. And if you're ever unsure about something, just ask. Most autistic individuals would rather you clarify than make assumptions.
And what about support networks? Where can autistic women find resources and connect with others?
The blog post mentions two fantastic organizations, the Autistic Women and Non-Binary Network, or AWNN,
Okay.
and the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, ASAN. Both offer a wealth of resources and support.
And I bet online communities can also be a great way to connect with others who share similar experiences.
Absolutely. Online forums and social media groups can provide a sense of belonging and validation, especially for those who might feel isolated in their offline lives.
So we're talking about a multifaceted approach, recognizing individual differences, creating supportive environments, and connecting with resources and communities.
Precisely. It's about working together to create a world where autistic women feel seen, heard, and empowered to live their lives to the fullest.
And that brings us right back to the author's powerful statement. Autistic women are worthy of love, respect, and inclusion. It's a message that needs to be amplified.
It's a message that resonates far beyond the autistic community. It's a reminder that we all deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of our differences.
So let's talk about that broader context. How does understanding autism in women connect to the bigger picture of inclusivity and acceptance?
That's a really important question, and it's where things get really interesting. When we challenge the narrow definitions and stereotypes surrounding autism, we start to chip away at the very foundation of prejudice and discrimination.
It's not just about autism, right? It's about challenging the idea that there's a right way to be human.
Exactly. When we embrace neurodiversity, we're essentially saying that there are many ways of thinking, being, and experiencing the world, and they're all valuable.
And that's a powerful message that can benefit everyone.
Absolutely. It fosters empathy, understanding, and a willingness to see the world from different perspectives. It challenges us to move beyond our comfort zones and embrace the beauty of human diversity.
That's definitely a world I want to live in. So how do we get there? How do we move beyond awareness to action?
It starts with education. The more we learn about autism and neurodiversity, the more equipped we are to challenge misconceptions and advocate for change.
And I imagine sharing personal stories can also be incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. Stories have the power to humanize complex issues and create empathy. When we hear directly from autistic women about their experiences, it helps break down barriers and foster understanding.
What about systemic change? What role do policies and institutions play in creating a more inclusive society?
That's a crucial piece of the puzzle. We need policies that support the needs of autistic individuals, from access to education and healthcare to employment opportunities and legal protections.
So we're talking about a multi-pronged approach: education, personal storytelling, and systemic change.
Exactly. It's a collective effort that requires us to challenge our own biases, advocate for others, and work together to create a more just and equitable world.
Which brings us right back to that powerful message from the blog post. Autistic women are worthy of love, respect, and inclusion. It's a call to action for each and every one of us.
And a reminder that our differences are what make us unique and valuable. When we embrace those differences, we create a richer, more vibrant society that benefits everyone.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from busting stereotypes to exploring the strengths and challenges that autistic women face. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
I'm eager to hear it. If we shift our perspective and we start seeing autistic traits not as flaws, but as different ways of thinking and experiencing the world,
Okay.
then what possibilities open up for greater understanding and connection?
Whoa, that's a powerful question. It really makes you rethink things and look at the world through a new lens.
And when we make that shift,
Yeah.
we unlock so many possibilities. We start to see strengths where we once saw weaknesses. We start to appreciate diversity in a whole new way.
And that's what it's all about, creating a more inclusive world for everyone.
Exactly.
So this isn't just about understanding autistic women, it's about understanding ourselves and our place in a world that's more diverse than we might realize.
It really is.
And it's about recognizing that differences aren't something to fear, but something to celebrate. If you're listening because you want to understand an autistic woman in your life, stick with us because this next part is key.
Okay.
We talked about practical things people can do to be supportive, but where can people find resources and connect with others?
Well, the blog post mentions two great organizations, the Autistic Women and Non-Binary Network, or AWN, and the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, ASAN. They both offer tons of resources and support.
And I bet online communities can help people feel like they belong and connect with others who get it.
For sure. Online forums and groups can be especially helpful for people who might feel isolated.
This has been so insightful. So we're talking about a multifaceted approach to understanding and supporting autistic women, recognizing their individual differences,
Yes.
creating those supportive environments,
Yeah.
and connecting with resources and communities. Anything else?
I think the big thing is remembering this is an ongoing conversation. We all have to keep learning.
Keep learning, yeah.
Keep challenging our own assumptions and keep working toward a world where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued for who they are.
I love that. This deep dive has really changed how I think about autism and neurodiversity. What surprised you most when you first started learning about this?
One of the first things that surprised me was just how diverse the autistic community is.
Yeah,
It's a spectrum, like we talked about.
right.
And that means no two experiences are the same.
Everyone's journey is unique.
Exactly, and we need to remember that.
It's easy to fall into that trap of thinking about autism in just one way.
It is.
But the reality is much more nuanced and fascinating. For our listeners hearing about masking for the first time, can you talk more about what that looks like day to day?
Imagine feeling like you're constantly trying to fit in.
Oh, wow.
Like the world wasn't made for you,
Okay.
and you have to put on a performance every day.
Like you're acting.
Yeah, carefully watching everything you say and do to try and seem normal.
That must be so exhausting.
It is incredibly draining. And for many autistic women, it's how they survive.
Like a coping mechanism.
It is. To navigate a world that often doesn't get them.
That's such a powerful image. It really highlights the struggles that so many autistic women face.
Invisible struggles.
Yeah, and it makes me think about how important it is to create safe spaces where people can just be themselves
Absolutely. Spaces where people feel accepted for who they are.
without the pressure to mask.
Exactly. Where they can embrace their neurodiversity.
And that starts with us being aware and challenging our own biases.
It does. This deep dive has really given me a lot to think about.
Me too. If you're just joining us, we're talking about what it's like to be an autistic woman,
Right.
breaking down stereotypes and talking about the challenges and also the strengths they bring.
And we can't forget the importance of creating a more inclusive world.
A better world for everyone.
It's been a great conversation, and I hope our listeners have learned something new about autism and neurodiversity.
Don't forget to check out the resources in the blog post. We talked about the Autistic Women and Non-Binary Network, or AWNN, and the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, ASAN.
Such great organizations.
Doing really important work.
And remember, we just scratched the surface here.
Yeah.
Keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep listening.
This has been The Deep Dive.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.